Well, good morning, guys. I hope you are doing great today. I hope you've been able to listen to our recorded call on decision. And I want to go a little bit deeper on the chapter on decision. And we said that decision is the mastery of procrastination. And one of the favorite quotes in that entire chapter is where he said that there's a difference between successful people and unsuccessful people. And it comes back to how they make decisions. And that successful people, that they can make decisions quickly, and they change their minds slowly. But unsuccessful people, they also have a habit around decision making, and it's that they either don't make a decision, or when they do, it's often very slow. They say, well, let me go ask my neighbor, right? What my neighbor thinks I should do. Let me think about that, right? And they make decisions slowly, but then they change their minds quickly. Right? They're very wishy-washy. So there's a difference. And we're talking about decision, and I wanted to go a little bit deeper on some of the things that I mentioned in our recorded call. So if you haven't been able to listen to it yet, go back and listen to it. I think it's got some good stuff in there, and I'm going to try to make it a little more sense on a couple of things that we talked about in that. And if you listen to it, I mentioned a couple of laws. There's 7 laws that govern the way we think and create, and I mentioned 2 of them in this recorded lesson. And you may hear people say that these are universal laws or whatever. Well, the way I see it, these are God's laws, and the universe obeys. So don't think that I've gone all weird and new agey on you, right? Because these are God's laws. God created all things, and these are some of His laws that He created, and He is 100% in control of. And a couple things that I also mentioned on there is that, we can either be unwillfully, we can decide to unwillfully decide to do the things that we need to do, or we can be ignorant of the things and be unaware of the things that we need to do. So we can make decisions 2 ways. We can choose not to do it, or we can be unaware. And it's the same thing with these laws, right? And you think about, you can either decide to say, what's this little short guy know about these laws? And he's just a PTA, he's a PT assistant. What does he know about this stuff? So you can choose to not believe this, or you can be unaware of these laws, and these laws are a fact. These are true laws that govern the way we think and create. And it's just like the law of gravity. The law of gravity has always existed. It existed before the apple fell on Newton's head, right? But we were unaware of it. We were ignorant to the fact of the law of gravity. So you can also say that I don't believe in the law of gravity. I think that's crazy talk. There's no such thing as the law of gravity. And I'm upstairs in our house, and I can go out that window and I say, I don't believe in gravity. And I can step out that window. Well, I'm about to believe in gravity because it's going to work. So I want to show you a couple of the laws that I mentioned in our chapter on decision, and how you can use those to think and create and reach the goals that you're looking for. So 2 things that I mentioned is, one was the law of gender. And I talked about early on that, I'm coaching some of you, and it's awesome to see some of the things that you're doing. We're working one-on-one together, and I love what I'm seeing and the progress that you're making. And then I also mentioned that some of you, it may not be happening yet. And that's the point, is it's not yet. And I gave the example of our son bringing home a cup of dirt with a root in there, and it was a potato root. And he's like, well, when are we going to have potatoes? Right? We don't just plant it and automatically happens. It takes time. Well, that's the law of gender, right? You're doing the study, you're doing the things that you've got to do to reach your goal, and it's not happening yet. It's because it takes time. There's an incubation and gestation period for all seeds. We know that if I go outside and plant a seed of corn, that it's going to take, I don't know how many days, but it's going to take days, right? Or months, I don't know. That's not the thing I know about. But I know it doesn't happen instantly. So the law of gender is going to take some time. But the one I really want to dig into is this law of polarity. And I said that law of polarity is basically the law of opposites. You can't have up without down. You can't have left without right, and you can't have hot without cold, right? So we know that, say there's this pole, it's a polar opposite of each other. On this pole, we're measuring temperature, and on one end is cold, and one end is hot, right? So on the same pole, there's a hot and there's a cold, and in between there's varying degrees of hotness. You can't have left without right, and there's varying degrees of right, and there's varying degrees of left, but we can't have one without the other. You can't have up without down, and there's varying degrees of upness and downness, right? So you may be saying, well, that's great. I get that. I understand that. How does that help me when it comes to reaching my goals? And that's what I want to talk to you about, is using this law of polarity in you achieving your goals. So let me erase this right here, and let's bring back in our friend. For those of you with that may be OCD, you're probably not going to like that, right? But that's okay. So let's bring this back in. We're going to bring back in our stick man. Actually, this time we're going to go stick woman, right? Let's say stick woman. This is stick woman here. We got our little dress on. This is stick woman. And if you listen to the video, you also hear me say that simultaneously we live on 3 planes of existence. That we are spiritual beings gifted with an intellect living in a physical body. At the same time, we're spiritual beings gifted with an intellect living in a physical body. And what this diagram represents is, I want you to see that this body is the smallest part of who we are. All right, it's the smallest part of who we are, but we experience it every day, and we think it's the largest part. And then our intellect is actually a larger part of who we are, and then God is much larger than us, right? So let's look at this from the law of polarity. So one more time, go through this stick man. So we've got, this is our mind, and this is our conscious mind. This is our thinking mind. This is where thoughts come in, and we can choose to accept or reject any thought that comes into our conscious thinking mind. This is our subconscious mind, and this is our emotional mind, right? This is our emotional mind. This is where our habits lie, our opinions and our beliefs lie. All those lie here. And then we have thoughts that come in. Well, those thoughts produce a feeling or an emotion. The emotion drives the body into action, and our actions produce our results. Right? We've talked about that. If that's new to you, go back and watch some of the other videos that we posted within this Think and Grow Rich program, and it'll make sense. But for this, know that this is our thinking mind. We can accept or reject any idea. This is our emotional mind. Our emotions cause us to act, and our actions produce our results. So, when we're thinking about this law of polarity, I said it's the law of opposites. And right now, I'm filming this inside our house, right? I'm 100% convinced that I'm inside this house. Well, how am I 100% convinced that I'm inside? It's because I'm aware of this thing called outside. Right? There's this thing called outside. If I were to go step outside, then I would say I am outside, and I would be 100% convinced and 100% sure that I'm outside because I'm aware of this thing called inside. So, how does this relate to us in achieving our goals? Well, let's say you get this idea, this inspired idea that comes in. It doesn't come from past programming, past beliefs, or whatever. It comes in through intuition. God gives us this idea, and we take a look at this idea. And I'm just going to put a positive to represent big. And then here, I'm going to put a negative out by our results. Not saying your results are negative or bad or anything like that, but just for the purposes of this video. So let's say we get this idea that comes in. And we say, oh, it just pops into our mind. We say, ooh, never done that before. I can't do that. That's too big. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I can't do that. That's too big. And we look at this idea and we compare it to our current results and we say that's too big, right? And for those of you that came to the, maybe you've heard me speak or you've come to the goal setting seminar, you know this example where this room that I'm in, is this room big or small? Right? Well, it depends. It depends on what we're comparing it to. Right? If we compare it to the bathroom, then this room's kind of big. But if I compare it to the Bancourt South Arena in downtown Tupelo, then this room's kind of small. right? The room did not change. The height, the width, the dimensions, none of that changed, but what we compared it to changed. So when we get this idea that comes in and it's big, and we say, I can't do that, that's too big, and we say it doesn't match, it's not going to match because our current results are coming from our past, our actions in the past, and this big idea is coming from a different source. And how this law of polarity comes in is this idea that comes in, and you say, I can't do that. And you are 100% convinced that you can't do that. That's when you celebrate. That's when you celebrate, because if we're looking at this law of polarity, there's no way that you can be 100% convinced that you can't do it without another part of you knowing that you 100% can do it. And this part of you knows how to do it. Now, that's probably the strangest thing you've ever heard all day, that you've heard all day. But stay with me. It is unlawful for you to say, I can't do this idea to come in and say, I can't do that, and it not be possible. When you say that, and you're 100% convinced, you cannot do it, that is when you celebrate, because there is a part of you that knows how to do it, 100% knows you can do it, and knows how to do it. And that is the law of polarity. So the problem is, or the issue then becomes, how do I access that, right? Well, one of the ways you do that is to sit in on the question. If you pray, then pray and seek God. But a lot of times what I see that when I'm coaching people, and even myself, is that this idea comes in and we instantly, I can't do that, and don't even think about it, right? For those of you that did come to the goal setting seminar, you heard me say that 3 years ago I had this idea just pop into my head, right? That to build this mixed-use facility in downtown Tupelo, and I said, oh, I can't do that. Did the whole thing. I can't do that. That's not possible. I don't know anything about that, right? I don't know anything about that. And then finally I started, instead of saying I can't, it kind of transitioned to, can I do that? Is that something I can do? And then finally we put a how. Put a how in front of can I. How can I do that? Well, you know, I know somebody I've got a friend at City Hall. Well, maybe I can ask her to see if this is even a possibility. So you take action on that step. And she gives me some names that I can go talk to. And that step leads to multiple other steps, right? So what I want to point out to you here is this law of polarity. It's the law of opposites. It's the law of opposites. You can't have inside without outside. You can't have up without down. And you can't be 100% convinced that you can't do something without there being something within you that knows how to do it, that's 100% sure that you can do it. Now, I want to leave you, again, one thing on that. That probably is the strangest thing you've heard. I don't want you to dismiss it. Okay? What I've just said, do not dismiss it. Sit in on that. Challenge it. Challenge it. Right? Maybe you don't just automatically accept it. Maybe you say, what's this little short guy talking about? Let me think on that. And challenge it. Next time you have an inspired idea, come in, challenge it. See. I want to, and one last thing on that. You know, as a believer, the thing is, it comes down to discernment as well. You want to be able to discern, is that fleshly, is that coming from my own habits and my own perceptions and opinions, or is it truly coming from God? And I think one of the highest things that we can do as believers is to discern that voice of God in our life. I think that's what we're all seeking. So discerning that, but on this law right here, take some time, think into that. And I want to leave you with one last quote. I shared this on Facebook a couple months ago, but the quote is from Paul Martinelli. He says, if you've been sourced with an idea, then you have been resourced to bring it forward. And you think about that, if this idea truly is from God, you think God is going to say, hey, let's give Corey this idea. Let's give Corey this idea, and let's fold our arms, and let's sit back and watch this, and let's just watch and laugh, because it's impossible for him to do it. Let's just give him this idea and just sit back and laugh, because he can't do it. It's not even possible for it to even be done. So let's just sit back and laugh. Think about that. So I hope you're enjoying the study. Think about this. Watch this video over and over again. I think you can pick up some stuff each time you listen to it. I pick up something each time I think about it, write this thing out. So I hope you guys have a great day, and God bless.